I'm not teaching, I'm publicly learning. But hi and welcome to Learning for the Life in UK test part 344. Driving while doing leg stretching, and if you participate in the leg stretching, that is at your own risk. So the first exercise, we're having both legs out, feet together, so don't go to the outside, have them together, and pull the toes in. You can go also for around back in front and pull in, or if you don't use the hand, then have a straight back, lean in front and pull the toes in. Driving. In the UK, you must be at least 17 years old to drive a car or motorcycle, and you must have a driving license to drive on public roads. To get a UK driving license, you must pass a driving test, which tests both your knowledge and your practical skills. You need to be at least 16 years old to ride a moped, and there are other age requirements and special tests for driving large vehicles. Okay. In the United Kingdom, you must be 17 years old to drive a car or a motorcycle. And you also must have a driving license if you want to drive on public roads, so basically on all streets. So public road, maybe that's a bit confusing, basically everything. Basically all streets. So 17 years old, and you need a driving license. And to get the UK driving license, and next exercise, bring one leg in and down in front, and you can also pull it in. To get a driving license, you must pass a driving test, and that tests your knowledge and your practical skills. So you're making a test, I guess, and you're writing what is written there. They're asking you if you should drive on the left or the right side. And they're testing your practical skills. So I'm saying, I don't know, drive 100 meters and don't make a car accident. You need to be at least 16 years old to ride a moped, and there are other age requirements and special tests for driving large vehicles. So if you want to drive a moped, that's something like a motorcycle, a little bit smaller, then you have to be 16 years old, and you probably need also a driving license. That's not in here. And if you want to drive large vehicles, like a truck, then you need special tests and other age groups. So if you want to drive a truck, you might have to be 2-3 years old or something like that, or other vehicles, and you need other tests. If you wish to ride an electric bike, changing the leg, you must be 14 or over. You do not need a license as long as your bike meets the government's electrically assisted pedal cycle (EAPC) requirements. For more information, visit www.gov.uk/electric-bike-rules. They're making all this with points for a couple of times at the end after the verb address. Many people will type in the point, and I don't think if it will work. The point is part of a sentence, not part of the verb address. So if you want to drive an electric bike, you don't need a driver license or something like that, as long as your bike meets the government's electrically assisted pedal cycle, but you have to be over 14 years old. We're going to our next exercise, the car racer. We are having 90-90 with the legs, so both legs 90 degrees. We're going with the hands to the knee, which is behind of us, and we're leaning in front and going with the shoulder to the knee, which is in front of us. Drivers can use their driving license until they are 70 years old. After that, the license is valid for 3 years at a time. So if you're 70 years old, the driver's license doesn't work anymore. After that, the license is valid for 3 years at a time. I think they have to go every 3 years and tell them that they're not that much affected by age and that they can still drive. And in Northern Ireland, a newly qualified driver must display an R plate for restricted driver for 1 year after passing the test. So if you're Northern Ireland driving, and you have done your driver license just a couple of months ago, less than a year ago, you must have somewhere an R plate. That means that you're a strict driver, then the other people know that you're just new to driving. If you have a license from another country, you may use it in the UK for up to 12 months. To continue driving after that, you must get a UK full driving license. And right thing, but probably for many people is pretty important and pretty much in detail. Then we're having an asterisk, which means that this is not properly enough written. But we have here to check that you can drive in the UK with a non-Great Britain license. Visit. No, it's a non-Great Britain license. No longer UK. Has something to do with the UK? If you're looking. Great Britain. We have changed the site and we're saying whatever. So, if you have a license from another country, so if you're coming from France or something like that, you can use your France driving license for 12 months. To continue, if you want to, after a year, still drive in the UK, then you have to get the UK full driving license. To check that you can drive in the UK with a non-Great Britain license, you might go to www.gov.uk/driving-non-GB-license. So 1 year you can drive with a driver's license from another country. That is already oversimplified. And after that, that might make some problems. And for the whole thing, you better look at gov.uk/driving-non-GB-license. If you are resident in the UK, your car or motorcycle must be registered at the Driver and Vehicle Licensing Agency, DVLA. You must pay an annual vehicle tax, which cannot be passed on when a vehicle changes hands. How can a tax be passed on? Which cannot be passed on when a vehicle changes hands. Pay an annually vehicle tax, maybe something because of that. And the next exercise, again just 1990, now we're leaning in front. If a vehicle is parked off the road and not being used, you must tell DVLA, the Driver and Vehicle Licensing Agency, by making a statutory off-road notification, SORN, S-O-R-N. SORN cannot be transferred if a vehicle is sold or given to a new owner. You must also have valid motor insurance. It is a serious criminal offense to drive without insurance. If your vehicle is over 3 years old, you must take it for a Ministry of Transport MOT test every year. It is an offense not to have an MOT certificate if your vehicle is more than 3 years old. You can find out more about vehicle tax and MOT requirements at www.gov.uk. Now we're more specific, like gov.uk/vehicle tax and motor certificate. Okay, what was it here? That was pretty much. If you are a resident in the United Kingdom, so if you're living in the United Kingdom, then your car has to be registered at the DVLA. So if you're living in the United Kingdom and you have a car, you have to register it. And we're going into the pigeon pose. Do it only if you already know how to do the pigeon pose before to enjoy yourself. And then you have to pay also tax on your car. And you cannot pass that on if you sell your car, something like that. So you have to pay money for owning a car. And so you have to have a lot of money to buy the car. And then after you already possess it, it's completely your own, you have to pay every year for owning it. And if you park your vehicle off a road and it is not used, you must tell DVLA that by making a statutory off-road notification, SORN. So if you have a car and you just park it off the road, do we mean in a garage? We have it just in your garage for the scenery standing? Or do we mean standing somewhere else? The next part did not go to that, or? You must have a valid motor insurance. No. So, I don't know, if you park your car off the road, not on the road. What does it mean? Does it mean in the garage? Does it mean beside the road, somewhere in the wilderness? You have to tell something of that DVLA. And at DVLA, at the Driving and Vehicle Licensing Agency, where you can make a SORN, a statutory off-road notification. And that SORN cannot be transferred. if you sell your vehicle or give it to a new owner. And you have to have a valid motor insurance. And it is a criminal offense to not have a motor insurance. So you have to have a driver license to drive. You have to have the money to buy the car. And you have to pay every year for your own car. And you have to also pay for the things which get broken. You have to pay for the gasoline. And you have to have a motor insurance. And that is probably, again, something you have to pay. And if you do not that, then you're doing a criminal offense. And if your car is older than 3 years, you have to do every year a test with it. But it has the MOT, the Ministry of Transport certificate. I think we have it now all in theory. So congratulations to everyone who has it in practice. We are changing the leg. And 1990, and we got in front. Okay, what was that? We have to have the money to buy the car. When we need a driver's license to drive a car. So to buy a car, the money to drive a car, the driver's license. For that we have to be over 17 years old. Then we have to register our car at the driver and vehicle licensing agency. We have to pay tax every year on the car. We have to pay for the things which got broken at the car. We have to pay for the gasoline to drive the car. We have to pay anyway road taxes for our income, but that is independent whether we have a car or not. We have to tell it and make a certificate of road notification if we're parking the car somewhere. And we have to have a motor insurance, which also costs money. And if the car is over 3 years old, then we have to do a Ministry of Transport test every year, which probably costs money. So that's driving. So if you were here just for driving, that is what we had written to driving. The next thing will be going over what we had written here in the last chapter, if you understand it all. So if you're just here to check if you understand it all, then you can go directly to the next part. Otherwise, we're doing now again the pigeon pose with the other leg. So if you're here just for checking off, if you checked everything, then you can go to the next part. Okay, now the criminal courts. Let's repeat it again. Crown courts are for serious crimes. In Northern Ireland, there are the sheriff courts, or even higher, the high courts. And that is in front of a judge and a jury. In Scotland, by the sheriff court, it can be also just a sheriff or a sheriff and a jury. For minor offences, there are the magistrate courts. Are we called magistrate courts? Magistrate courts. In Scotland, there are the justice of peace courts. They're basically doing the same, just that in Northern Ireland, where the people in the magistrate courts are qualified and paid. Then we have the youth courts, 10 to 17, closed, no name, no photograph, parents and carers or carers should attend. And then we're having the children's hearing system in Scotland instead of it. And in Northern Ireland, we have additionally to the youth courts the system of youth conference, the youth conferencing system. That's criminal court. We're going to do it 2 or 3 times more before we're going on to the civil courts. Okay, the parliaments. There's the Senate in Wales, formed 1999, 60 members. They are elected by proportion. No, we are elected differently. There was the asterisk every 4 years. It was 60. Then we're having the Scottish Parliament, where it was 129, formed in 1999. It is in Edinburgh, the other one is in Cardiff. There it is election based on proportional representation or something like that. In Northern Ireland, there was the Northern Ireland Parliament, 1922 for 50 years until 1972, 3 years after the troubles in 1969 started, it was suspended or whatever. And then there is, after the peace progress and the appeasement agreement of 1998, the Northern Ireland Assembly. It has the MLAPs, the members of Legislative Assembly, that are 90. And it also uses a form of proportional representation of the election. To the last exercise, the butterfly stretch. We're having the soles of the feet together. We're sitting tall up and we're stretching a bit in front. Now the cricket things which have been made into the day-to-day talk. Range to play and betting on a sticky wicket. and playing a straight bet, and it's just not cricket, and bowling a googly. Thank you very much, and next time.